Hi everyone, my name's DIABETOR, and today I'm going to show you how to access Elden Ring's DLC as quickly and easily as possible. There's a lot of really cool weapons, items, and spells in the DLC, and a lot of people want to get them as soon as possible so that they can use them throughout as much of their playthrough as possible, even in the base game. So I'm going to show you how to get to the DLC as quickly and easily as possible, even from a completely fresh character. I know the video's a bit long at an hour and a half, but we are fighting an endgame boss in the form of Mohg, so if you want to make it easy, then there's gonna have to be some setup. You can check out the timestamps in the description if you want to skip around the video. So I made this guide with a completely new character, but before I actually started filming, I went around a large part of the lower half of the map, and I grabbed a bunch of sites of grace and maps and stuff to make it easier for me to record this video, and also easier for you to follow along, because you'll see graces and maps and stuff. But I want to point out, in case you don't know, these symbols here that you see on the blank parts of the map, these little obelisks, or I think they're called stelas or whatever, this is where you can find the map fragments. So it's marked on your map before you pick it up. I see a lot of people actually not realize that they can use that to find map fragments until like half of their map isn't filled in. So I want to make it clear that you can go and grab those so that you can fill in your map and make it easier to follow along. So with that in mind, as you go along following this guide, just make sure you grab the map in each region, and then it'll be easy to follow what I'm doing on the map. So, to start off, we're going to go to Caelid at the Church of Elleh in Limgrave, and we're going to buy the 3 cracked pots that he sells, as well as the crafting kit, and I like to use any leftover runes that I have to buy throwing daggers. They're nice to have, they're not super important, but they're really nice to have, so I like grabbing them. After that, you can follow the road straight north from the Church of Elleh, and that'll take you to the Gatefront Ruins. You can rest at one of the sites of grace at the Gatefront, and that'll let you talk to Melina, and she'll give you Torrent, so that you can have the horse to travel around faster. And also, while we're here, we're going to head down into the cellar and grab the Whetstone Knife, which will let us put Ashes of War on our weapons at any site of grace. After that, you're going to head west from the Gatefront Ruins, and you're going to go up through the Stormgate towards Stormhill. Make sure you grab the Golden Seed along the way, and you're going to stop over by the Stormhill Shack, where we're going to grab a Stone Sword Key. We're going to need 2 of these for this run, so this is the first one that we're grabbing. And you can also grab the Site of Grace here, because we're going to have to come back later. After that, follow the road east from the Stormhill Shack, and that'll bring us over to the Warmaster Shack, and there's a few things in the area around the Warmaster Shack that we need to grab. So first of all, to the southwest from the Warmaster Shack up on this hill, there's a graveyard that has a bunch of golden runes, and we're going to use these to buy some stuff. Be careful of the exploding balls that are there. Also, if you head north from the Warmaster Shack, you'll come across a big open field, and there's this patch of fire with these smoldering butterflies and the magma slugs. We're going to need the smoldering butterflies to craft fire pots later on, so you can grab the 8 butterflies that are here, and then if you kill the 2 slugs, not only do they have a chance of dropping smoldering butterflies, but you can also, if you want to farm more smoldering butterflies, you can kill the slugs so that you can then fast travel back to the Warmaster Shack, and then when you run back over here, the butterflies and the slugs will have respawned, and you can farm as many butterflies as you want. Once you've gotten enough smoldering butterflies, you only need like a dozen or so, you're going to head east from that, and you'll find this Godric Knight riding around on a horse, so we're going to kill him. I like to use the tap heavy attacks, you know, like, so you just press R2, but just like tap it, don't hold it down, and that usually stuns him on the horse like you saw, and that makes it pretty easy to kill him. And once he dies, he drops the Golden Vow Ash of War, which is a buff that we're going to be using throughout this guide. After that, we're going to go slightly northeast from where the Godric Knight was, so we can safely go down the cliff and head over to that corner right there, which is the Death-Touched Catacombs, where we're going to grab the Uchi Katana. So make sure you safely go down the cliff, don't fall to your death obviously, and then right next to it, there's the Death-Touched Catacombs, and we're just going to run straight through here, grab that root resin because we're going to need it. Once you get to this staircase, you can make a right, and you'll see that there's a little semi-hidden dark hallway here. You go through this, and then you make a left, and that leads you to the Uchi Katana. So we're going to use this to kill Greyoll, the giant dragon, so that we can get a bunch of runes to level up before we fight any bosses. After that, we're heading over to East Limgrave, where we're going to stop by the 3rd Church of Marika and grab the Flask of Wondrous Physic, as well as a Sacred Tear. The Flask of Wondrous Physic is a reusable buff that provides some really strong buffs that you can use throughout your playthrough, and we're going to take advantage of that here. And the Sacred Tear is used to upgrade how much each of your flasks heals when you drink a flask. And the Golden Seeds, of course, increase the number of flasks that you can carry, So these are important because we're going to be fighting some fairly tough bosses, and we want to be able to, heal and not die. So we're going to be grabbing a bunch of those throughout this guide. Once you have those, you can follow the road south from the Third Church of Marika, and that'll take you to Fort Height. There's a blood rose outside by the staircase, so grab that. We're going to need a bunch of them. And then there's also a golden seed outside the fort, so make sure you take that. I like to run past all the guys here, but you probably want to take your time and kill them one by one, so you don't get owned like you're going to see me do a little bit here. But inside the fort, there's a bunch of blood roses, so make sure you grab those. You're going to want at least 5 or 6 of them, so I grabbed like 5 total here, I think. And then also inside this dark room, be careful not to get owned by the rat, there is a cookbook which is going to let us craft blood grease, which is going to be important for killing Greyoll, the giant dragon. And then finally, after that, you're going to head up to the top of the fort. There's a knight up here, and he's pretty tough, so be careful not to get murdered by him. Usually he follows you up the tower, but he didn't follow me up. Killing him is optional here. He drops an Ash of War called Bloody Slash, and it's nice to have, but we don't need it for this guide. What we came up here for is the half of the Dectus Medallion. So now we're heading back to the War Master's shack to farm a couple items so that we can craft some stuff that we're going to need later on. So first, there's these 3 root resins here by this tree to the east of the Grace, and then right behind the shack, there's a mushroom you can grab. So grab all 4 of those things, then sit down at the Grace, and that makes them respawn, and you can grab them again. We need root resin in order to craft blood grease, and we're going to need the mushrooms in order to craft fire pots. So fire pots require 1 mushroom and 1 smoldering butterfly, and blood grease requires 1 root resin and 1 blood rose. I recommend you do 5 or 6 runs and just grab about a dozen of each so that you don't have to worry about running out of them during the course of this guide. And if you need more blood roses, you can go grab a few more of them at Fort Height. It's slower, but, they're nice to have. Up next, we're heading south of Limgrave toward the Weeping Peninsula. You can get here from the Gatefront Ruins, just follow the road to the east and then south, and you'll come across the Bridge of Sacrifice. There's a ballista on the bridge that's going to shoot at you. I like to bait out a shot by running perpendicular to the bridge, and then that'll make it shoot behind you, and then you can just run past while it's reloading. On the bridge there's some smithing stones, and more importantly, there is a stone sword key. So like I said before, we're going to need 2 of these, so make sure you grab it. And then right after the bridge, there is a site of grace on your right. From there, you're going to follow the road south, and that'll take you over to the Castlemore and Rampart site of grace. So you see it's just a straight road, you follow it south. I'm pointing this out specifically because the map is over here, and we're going to go grab it. So you won't be able to see this until you pick up your map, obviously, but that's where we're going, and you just follow the road straight south. So we're going to go past this rampart wall here. We're going to grab the map. Be careful because off in the distance there's a golem that's going to shoot at you. And also on the west side over here, after you grab the map, there's a golden seed on this little step thing here. So make sure you jump up and grab this because we're going to need to upgrade our flask for the bosses that we're going to kill. And also, of course, for being in the DLC. While we're down in the Weeping Peninsula, I figured it's best if we go and grab the 3 sacred tears that are at the 3 churches down here. So the first one is going to be to the west of the Castlemore and Rampart site of grace. It's on top of this mesa thing. It's called the Caelid Baptismal Church. So you can get here, just go from the rampart, follow the road west, and then that'll take you up around on top of the mesa, and you'll find the church. The path takes you through some woods, so be careful not to lose track of where you are. Once you get to that shack that we passed by, you pretty much just have to head north, and it'll take you up to this village, and then immediately on your right, you'll find the church. Inside the church are some giant rats, so be careful of them. There's a spell, we're not going to use it in the guide, but grab it while you're here. And of course, there's also the sacred tear, which is very nice. The other 2 sacred tears are on the west side of the peninsula. So the first one is at this northern church called the Church of Pilgrimage. I didn't show it here because it's just a short run, but from the Castlemore and Rampart, you follow the road north and then west. You'll pass by a site of grace on a little step thing, so make sure you grab that. And then, you just follow the road across the bridge, and it takes you straight up to the church. Impossible to miss. And there's a sacred tear here. And then the other church is to the southwest of that one. So you'll see it on top of a hill, and you can clearly see it marked on your map, so you can just place a waypoint there and go towards it. You're going to go down the hill, and then it's just a straight shot over to it. You can run past some soldiers. You don't have to fight them if you don't want to, but you'll see it right over there, off in the distance, so it's just a straight shot over to that. So there's a total of 12 sacred tears you can find throughout the game, and you can upgrade your flasks to a maximum of plus 12. So at this point we have 4 of them, and by the end of this guide we'll have 10 of them, because that's the number that you can get without killing any bosses. So that's what we're going to be doing. So anyway, we're going to go back to that site of grace that we grabbed over on the east side of the peninsula, and this time we're going to head down into the woods to the demi-human forest ruins. You see there's a building here, like this little square thing. It might be kind of hard to find, but you can look at it on the map and see that little square that I marked. That's the specific part of the ruins that we need to go into. It's this building here that has a tree blocking the doorway, so to get into it you need to jump over the wall. So you can just come and stand on top of this and then jump over. That takes you down into a cellar, and inside the cellar is the Shield of the Guilty. We're going to need this shield because there's a couple NPCs that we need to kill for some items that they drop, and since this shield has a bleed buildup, you can put the Shield Crash Ash of War on it, and that makes it super easy to kill NPCs, which I'll show later on once we get there. Now that we've grabbed just about everything that we need in Limgrave, we're going to head back up to the Third Church of Marika and take the hidden teleporter in the pond just to the north of it, which will take us over to the Bestial Sanctum and the Dragonbarrow, where we're going to go to grab some more stuff. So here we are at the Bestial Sanctum. In case you haven't been here before, this is way up in Caelid. The Dragonbarrow is a pretty high level area, so be careful because the enemies here will probably one-shot you if you're low level. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow the road south across this enormous bridge. There's a dragon on the bridge, so make sure you grab that grace there. But we're going to go south across the bridge to the minor Erdtree that's nearby. And behind the minor Erdtree, there's a cliff that has a spirit spring. We can jump up the spirit spring, and that'll take us to Fort Faroth, where we're going to grab a couple more items. So you can see the minor Erdtree off in the distance over there. So go around the Blackblade Kindred here so he doesn't attack you, and then you're just going to follow the road straight south. You can see the enormous bridge off in the distance. Grab the golden seed along the way. As you can see, there's a dragon on the bridge, so make sure you grab the site of grace right next to it. We're going to run past the dragon, but if it kills you, you'll just respawn at the grace here and, just grab your runes and try again. So I like to wait for it to turn around to face me, and then while it's doing its roar, you can just run underneath it and run past it, and now he can't catch up to you, so just keep going and you'll be fine. Head on down to the minor Erdtree, and then you're going to run around behind it and find the Spirit Spring by the cliff, and then you're going to jump up the Spirit Spring, and that'll take you straight up to Fort Faroth. Make sure you grab the grace outside of the fort so that in case you die here, you'll just respawn at the grace instead of having to run all the way back. We're going to run through the fort, and it's filled with giant bats and rats that'll probably one-shot you, assuming you haven't leveled up or whatever. So it's really important you grab that grace because you're probably going to die here once or twice. But when you go inside the fort, you can just sprint past all the bats, and as you just beeline it straight to the ladder, you can climb up it, and the bats can't follow you up. You might get poisoned if you're not wearing any armor, but I was fine, so you'll probably be fine. And then at the top of the ladder, you'll find the right half of the Dectus Medallion. While we're up here, go around the corner and you'll see there's a bunch of holes in the roof over here. We're going to that far one over there that has a ladder that was directly above my head. So run over to that, drop into it. At the end of this, there's a golden rune here. Be careful of the rat that's on the side there. If you run and jump past him, then he won't hit you. And then we're going to jump across to this other area where there's more giant rats. Be careful of them. And when you drop down into this room, we're going to grab Radahn Sword Seal, which is a talisman that's going to give us a boost to some of our stats. So if you mash the map button, you might be able to fast travel to the grace before the rats kill you, but if the rats kill you, then, whatever, you respawn right at the grace. Maybe you lose a couple runes, but it's not a huge deal. Anyway, Radahn Sword Seal increases your Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity by 5 points each. So we're going to put that on, and that'll give us the ability to wield the Uchi Katana. If you started as the hero class, then you'll need to level up Dexterity once, so you hit the 15 Dex requirement, but, that's one level, so it's not a huge deal. While we're at Fort Faroth, we're going to kill the giant dragon Greyoll for the runes that she drops, and in order to maximize the runes that we get, we're going to go grab a gold pickled Foulfoot south of the first step in Limgrave. So head back to the first step, and then you can just go right south of it, and you'll find this cliff here. If you look down, you'll see there's some spirit springs. So the spirit spring here, you can't see it, but it has a really wide hitbox, so if you get close enough to it, then when you land, it'll consider you as having been inside the spirit spring, and you'll land safely. So you can just land next to the pillar here, grab the gold pickled Foulfoot, and then there's another spirit spring that you can jump up, and then you can use these to get up off the beach and away from the skeletons. If you can't pull this off, then you can just run up the beach to the northwest, and you'll be fine, and then just fast travel out or whatever. Now it's time to kill Greyoll. So in order to do this, we're going to need the Uchi Katana, we're going to need the gold pickled Foulfoot, don't eat it yet, just hold on to it in your inventory, and we're going to need a bunch of blood grease. So we should have enough to make at least 5 blood greases. If you only have like 3 or 4, that's fine. It just might make the process slightly faster if you have 5, because it takes a little while to kill her, and the blood grease speeds that up a bit. But, you know, as long as you have like 3 or 4 of them, you'll be fine. So what you're going to do is equip the Uji Katana, equip Radagon's Sword Seal, do not consume the Gold Pickled Foulfoot yet, put blood grease on the Uchi, and then you're just going to whack away at her. So she has like 60,000 health, and you see we're hardly doing any damage to her, but when you proc a bleed on an enemy, it takes off a big chunk of their health, like that. So you saw it took off like 13,000 hit points from her. And so what you're going to do is just keep applying blood grease to the Uchi, and then just keep fucking wailing away at her. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to kill her, and the Gold Pickled Foulfoot only lasts about 3 minutes, I think. So I like to wait until I have her pretty low, and then eat the Foulfoot just to make sure it doesn't run out before I kill her. This is a difference of a lot of runes, so don't forget to use the Foulfoot before you kill her. You do have some time to eat it once she starts her death animation, but remember to use it. If you use the Foulfoot, she will drop like 97,000 runes, and so we're going to use that to level up a whole bunch. Without it, she drops, I think, like 72,000 or something, which is still a lot, but, you know, you want to get your value out of it, so make sure you use the Foulfoot. We're going to immediately take those runes and use them to level up Vigor. I brought it up to 37 here. You're going to want to get it to at least 35. We're going to keep using Radagon's Sword Seal, which boosts Vigor by 5, and so that brings us up to the first soft cap of 40. And then you're also going to want to put some points into Strength and Dexterity. So I brought Strength up to 11 and Dex up to 15, because that's the minimum requirements for the Uchi. We're going to keep leveling them up a bit more later on, plus Vigor. But Vigor is the important one, so make sure you at least get 35 Vigor. While we're in the area, we're going to stop over by the Church of the Plague to grab our 5th Sacred Tear. From Fort Faroth, jump over the Burning Wall, and then to the southwest you'll see there's this giant skull. So over by this, there's a Spirit Spring that you can drop down, so, you know, drop down into the Spirit Spring, so it's a safe fall. And then you see right over there is the Church of the Plague, so we're going to run up to that. And inside, there's the NPC Millicent. She's not relevant to this guide, but you can start her quest here if you want. And of course, there is also Sacred Tear number 5, which we're going to use to upgrade our flask, so make sure you grab that. Here's where the church is relative to Fort Faroth, if you need some reference. Now that we're done with the Dragonbarrow, we're going to head back over to the Stormhill Shack in Limgrave, and we're going to take the shortcut path up to Liurnia. So from the Stormhill Shack, just follow the road straight north and you'll come to this broken bridge, and then off the side of the bridge you'll see that there's this cliff thing that you can jump down to, and you can follow the cliffside around, and this takes you around Stormveil Castle straight to Liurnia, so you can get to Liurnia without having to kill Margit and Godric. Liurnia is really big, and there's going to be a lot of running to do here, so I'm not really going to show all the running, but I will show you where we're going on the maps. So as long as you grab the maps of each section of Liurnia as you go along, you should be able to follow along just fine. So the first thing we're going to do here is stop over by the Church of Irith, where we're going to grab our 6th Sacred Tear. And then to the west of the church, there's a road that'll take you down to the lake level of Liurnia, where we're going to head next. Along the way, you're going to pass by 2 map fragments, so here you can see the road. You won't be able to see it on your map, but it's super easy to find. The first map fragment is right about here, and that'll give you the map of the entirety of East and North Liurnia. So you're going to see here, if you look at the map, you can see like the seam line of where the different map pieces fill in, so you'll be able to see this east side of the map, and what you're going to do is put a marker on this tunnel right here. This is called Raya Lucaria Crystal Tunnel, and we're going to just beeline it straight over there, because we need to kill the boss there for the bell bearing that it drops, which will let us buy a bunch of smithing stones so that we can upgrade our weapons and actually kill Mohg and Radahn. Also, along the way, you're going to pass by the Academy Gate Town. There's another map fragment, and there's a Site of Grace there. Make sure you grab both of those, because we're going to have to come back to the Gate Town later on to grab a couple other things. While we're in the Gate Town, we're going to stop by, you see there's this L-shaped building here. If you put a marker in the corner of the L part of it, like the inside corner, there is a golden seed there that we can grab, so that's worth grabbing while you're here. So you can see, just run through town, you'll find the tree, and there's your golden seed. And then after that, it's pretty much just a straight shot right up to Raya Lucaria Crystal Tunnel, and so you're just going to beeline it across the lake, and straight over there. You know you're in the right spot when you see the Walking Mausoleum. It's foggy and rainy right now, so you can't see it super clearly here, but I'm sure you can hear it in the background. It's also dark. It's nice if you have a torch, but it shouldn't be hard to find the entrance of the tunnel. Here's where it is relative to the mausoleum, which is like directly to the east of it. So once you go inside the tunnel, take the elevator down and grab the Site of Grace. For the purpose of this guide, I'm going to show you myself just quickly running through the tunnel. There's a bunch of stuff to grab here. There's a whole ton of Smithing Stone 2s, there's a bunch of Smithing Stone 3s, there's a couple other items to pick up too, and some like consumables and stuff. So it's good if you actually explore the tunnel and grab all the stuff that's inside of it. It'll be really helpful, but we don't really need it per se, so I just ran through the tunnel because, you know, I want to save time. I don't want to explore this whole tunnel. One thing I will point out is that once you get to this room with the beam, on your left, there's an elevator here. This is a shortcut that goes back up to the entrance of the tunnel, so make sure you activate the elevator down here at the bottom. That way, if you die, instead of having to run through the whole first part of the tunnel again, you can just take that elevator straight down to this section and then continue on. But other than that, we're just running past a whole bunch of miners and stuff, and then there's just a second elevator to find, and that takes you to the boss. So we're going to use Unsheath to kill this boss. Make sure you know how to do the heavy attack on the Unsheath. So you hold down the Ash of War button, and then you press your heavy attack button, and that makes you do the big vertical chop. So this Crystallian is super resistant to all damage. It has like 95% resistance to all damage or something like that. And it's got a fuckload of poise, or a fuckload of hit stun resistance, so you can't really stun it. But if you hit it with 3 unsheaths, that'll break its stance, and you see it gets all like cracked and fucked up now. So now every single hit you do to it will stun it, and also you'll do pretty much normal damage to it. So once you hit it with those 3 unsheaths and stance break it, it becomes super easy to kill. And once it's dead, it'll drop the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing number 1, which lets you buy infinite Smithing Stones 1 and 2 from the Twin Maiden Husks at the Roundtable hold. After that, we're going to go back out the entrance of the tunnel, and we're going to take a Spirit Spring shortcut up to the Bellum Highway, which will let us get up to the Grand Lift of Dectus and go up to the Altus Plateau. When you come out of the tunnel, turn north and go past the mausoleum, you'll see there's this enormous cliffside here, and in between some trees next to the cliffs there's a Spirit Spring, so get on Torrent and jump up that, and that takes you straight up to the Bellum Highway. There's a Set of Grace by the gate here, so make sure you grab that in case you die to something, because there's a bunch of knights and stuff up here. We're going to head up to the Grand Lift of Dectus, but along the way, we're going to make a stop by the Bellum Church, which you can see marked clearly on your map here. So just place a marker on that, and then you can just run straight through the woods, straight to it. Inside the church, there is a statue of Radahn with another sacred tear, which makes number 7. There's also this tunnel thing, and we're going to go down this real quick, because there's a merchant over here, and he sells bewitching branches. So I picked up 2 of them. We only need 1, but these come in limited supply, so don't use them yet. But I picked up 2 of them just in case I needed another one. They cost 1,600 runes each, so they shouldn't be too hard to afford. If you need the runes, you can just sell some of the golden runes we picked up or something. After that, we're going to go back up to the church, and this time we're going to follow the highway all the way up to the Grand Lift of Dectus. So on the highway, there's fortifications and trebuchets that are going to shoot at you once you come into this area over here. But the trebuchets can only shoot you near the road, so I like to come by this cliff over here, and if you follow the cliff up, then you can get up to where the trebuchets are too close to be able to shoot at you, and then you can get onto the highway and just run past them. So follow the cliff, watch your step, be careful not to fall to your death. Once you get up to this rock thing, you'll come around and pass by the flame chariot. You can just run past all the enemies here, and now you just have a safe, straight shot up to the Grand Lift. Make sure you grab the Grace on the right side of the entrance. We're not going to go up the lift quite yet, because we have one more stop to make, which is going to save us some time with Vari's quest later on. So from the lift, if you'll see there's line here, this is like a cliff that you can follow up. I like to mark this, when we get to it you'll see it, but there's like a lower path and a higher path. I like to mark the edge of the cliff there because that's the lower path, and it gives you more cover from the Frenzy Flaming Tower that I just marked with the skull there. And so we need to approach the tower and disable it by throwing some fire pots at it, so make sure you have the supplies to craft some fire pots. So you see here, there's like on my right, there's like a higher path. I like to stay on this lower path here, and that way I can hug the cliff wall and the tower can't hit me with the madness buildup. So that just makes it easier to get close to it. Plus there's a Spirit Spring, so once the tower turns off, just get in the Spirit Spring and jump up it. That'll take you straight up to the tower. You can jump around to this wooden platform here. Don't go down to the bottom level because there's giant rats that'll fuck you up. Once you climb up the ladder, there's a chest you can open that has a spell in it that we're not going to use, but it's good to grab. And if you stand on top of the chest, make some fire pots, and you can throw them up at the ceiling. So there are 6 guys on the top level of this tower, and they're the ones controlling the Frenzy Flame there. So if you throw the fire pots at the ceiling, you can kill all 6 of them. So you see with that second one, I only hit 1, so make sure you count how many there are. And there's the last 2, so that makes 6. Once all 6 of them are dead, the tower will be disabled permanently. These guys never respawn, so you don't have to worry about the tower anymore. And then now we can safely go around the Frenzy Flame Village and go to the place we need to go. So you'll see there's like this S-shaped thing on the map. If you mark the bottom tip of the S, then there's a set of grace there. So we're going to go grab that. Once you have that grace, we're going to head west straight through the village up to the Church of Inhibition. So you can see there's a hill that takes you up past the village, and then that leads you up to this church up here. And so place a marker on that because that's where we're going. As you're approaching the church, you'll see that you get kicked off of Torrent because you're being invaded by an NPC. So just keep running. You'll pass by him while he spawns in, but it takes a couple seconds before he can move and attack you. So run past him up into the church. There's a site of grace here that you're going to grab. So you don't have to kill the invader, he's optional. If he kills you, now that you've touched this grace, he'll just respawn right here, so it's not a huge deal. You can just grab your runes and then, you know, be on your business or whatever. So he won't spawn back in until you leave the church, so you're safe as long as you stay inside the church. There was a sacred tear that I grabbed by the statue there, and there's also that dead finger maiden who we're going to have to come back to later, which is the reason why we grabbed the church along the way right now. After that, we're going to go back to the Grand Lift of Dectus, stand next to these two shield guys on this pedestal, and you can hoist the medallion, and that'll take you up to the Altus Plateau. Once you come out of the lift, immediately go to your north. You'll see there's this raised platform thing here. I don't know the word for this. If you know the word for what this is called, please tell me, because I really want to know the word. I want to say step or mesa, but I don't fucking know what it is. But anyway, so we're going to go over to this thing where there's a site of grace, rest at it, spend any runes that you have, because you might die up here, because this is a slightly higher level area than Liurnia. So you can see on this save, I haven't been up to the Altus Plateau yet, so the first thing I'm going to do is just go and grab the two maps of the region up here. So if you follow the roads, you'll see the maps are marked on your empty map, and you can grab the map fragments to fill it in. So just north of the Altus Highway junction here, that intersection you see on the road, there is the first map. And then after that, from the Altus Highway junction, instead of going up the big staircase, we're going to follow along the south side of it, because there's a bunch of enemies on the Grand Road staircase, whatever you want to call it. So to avoid all the enemies, we're just going to go along the side of it, and then you can jump up to the gate through the wall from up here, as you're about to see. So once you get up to the end of it, just jump up. You have to jump over this little gap because you're too fat. And then after that, there's two tree sentinels here, but you can easily run past them. He can't catch up to you, and once you're over by the site of grace, he should either start walking away or despawn automatically. So just run past him, grab the grace, and you're going to see, he's like, oh, I'm going to fuck you up, and it's just, nope, goodbye. Where did he go? But anyway, so now that we're here, we're going to grab the map fragment that's right next to us, and that'll give us the whole map of the Altus Plateau. So now we can start running around and grabbing the stuff that we need up here. Our first rule of business is going to be to get some golden seeds. So of course there was one over by Altus Highway Junction that I didn't show, but you probably grabbed that along the way up to the map. There's also two golden seeds right here at the Outer Wall Phantom Tree site of grace. So again, there's another enemy on this staircase, so we're going to go across the side of it, and that lets us avoid him. This one's a gargoyle, and if you ask me, he's a lot harder than the other guys on the other road. But anyway, so there's another circular platform there that has another phantom tree with a couple more golden seeds, and then we're going to go grab a set of grace at that blue marker I just made. There's a second enemy there that we're going to try to avoid, and I'll talk about that once we get to him in a second. So run up to the second tree, grab the two golden seeds that are here, and then instead of going directly up the road here, you want to stick to the left side of it, because you'll see there's this commoner here, right there. If you get too close to him, he transforms into a bigger enemy, and I don't want to fight him right now, so I just stay on the other side of the road so he doesn't aggro. And then right up from him, there's a site of grace here called the Outer Wall Battleground, which we're going to grab because we need to come back to it later on. After that, go back to the Altus Plateau Grace by the Grand Lift of Dectus. You're going to need some fire pots for this because there's a teleporting scarab that we need to kill. If you get too close to it, it runs away, so you need to throw fire pots at it. Directly north of the site of grace, there's the Lux Ruins, and in the Lux Ruins, there's the scarab. Hit it with a fire pot to kill it, and it drops a shield crash Ash of War. And then if you go east, you can drop down the ruins here, drop down the cliff, and there's a site of grace here called the Erdtree Gazing Hill, which we're also going to need to come back to later, so make sure you grab this. And right next to it, of course, there's another golden seed. After that, from the Altus Highway Junction side of Grace, we're going to head over to the Second Church of Marika, where we're going to grab another Sacred Tear, and we're going to go past it to grab a Set of Grace for later on. So there's a cliff here that you need to drop down, and I like to go to the left side of it that you saw me mark there, because if you drop down on the right side of the cliff, there's a bunch of dogs that do bleed buildup, and they're kind of a bitch to deal with, and I don't like doing that. So if you come over on the left side, then you don't have to deal with the dogs. Inside the church, there's a Sacred Tear, so grab that. There's also a Sanguine Noble, so I like to just run away before he finishes spawning in. You're going to head up past the graveyard here through the north, and you'll see the Spirit Spring. You can use it to jump up the cliff. And then on your left, you have the Bridge of Iniquity that you're going to go across and grab a Set of Grace. So here's where we are currently relative to the church. So you go across the bridge here, and there's a Set of Grace we're going to grab, and this will be a little shortcut because we're going to have to come back here later on to kill an NPC. Next, we're going to head back over to the Outer Wall Phantom Tree, and this time we're going to head directly east, and there's a little land bridge thing that'll take you down into this moat, where there's a tunnel called Sealed Tunnel, and inside that, there's a bell bearing that we're going to grab, as well as a bunch of smithing stone 5s, so that we can upgrade our weapons up to plus 15. On the south end of the moat, you'll find the entrance to the tunnel, so go on in and grab the Site of Grace. There's a bunch of illusory walls in this tunnel, and the first one is right next to this effigy of the martyr, so just hit that and make it go away. Keep an eye out for the other ones. We're going to be going through this tunnel. They're not hard to spot. They're kind of obvious where they are. So you're going to go down past all these boxes here, and on your left there's a Vulgar Militia, so I like to sneak up on him and either hit him with a backstab or hit him with Unsheathed and then do a crit, and that'll kill him so you don't have to deal with him jumping at you and attacking you. And in this chest right here is the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing number 2. This gives you the ability to buy infinite Smithing Stones 3 and 4 from the Twin Maiden Husks at the Roundtable Hold. So now we have the ability to buy infinite 1, 2, 3, and 4. That'll let us get any weapon up to plus 12. And also, inside the Sealed Tunnel and the other tunnels in the Altus Plateau, there are Smithing Stone 5s that we're going to grab so we can upgrade a weapon up to plus 15. On the screen, you'll see how many Smithing Stones you need, so every 3 tiers of a weapon requires 12 Smithing Stones of that tier, so we need 12 each of Smithing Stones 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in the old Altus Tunnel, there are 8 Smithing Stone 5s, and in the Sealed Tunnel, there are 5 Smithing Stone 5s. That'll give us 13 total, so you can miss one and still be able to upgrade our weapon up to plus 15. There are places to go and get other ones too, in case you need more of them. There's also the Altus Tunnel in the Altus Plateau, and I want to say Celia Crystal Tunnel in Caelid also has Smithing Stone 5s. So if you end up needing more of them, you can get a bunch more, but for our purposes, we only need to upgrade one weapon, which is going to be the Antspur Rapier, so don't use them on the Uchi Katana in case you want to upgrade. Anyway, so yeah, we only need to upgrade one weapon, so make sure you grab the 5 Smithing Stones that are here in the Sealed Tunnel. You don't need to kill the boss here. I'm going to drop down to it and fight it for a little bit, but since I haven't upgraded the Uchi, my damage is shit, and I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to leave. So you can either come prepared to fight the boss. It's just an Onyx Lord, so it's not hard, but it just has a bunch of health because it's an Altus Plateau enemy. So here you see I have 5 Smithing Stone 5s. That's the amount that we've picked up in Sealed Tunnel, so by the end of this you should have 5 of them. But yeah, so if you go upgrade the Uchi to plus 12, because again, do not spend the Smithing Stone 5s on the Uchi, it's for the Antspur Rapier. But if you upgrade the Uchi, you'll do plenty of damage to him, but you see, I haven't upgraded it at all, and I'm doing terrible damage. So I said, you know what, fuck this, instead of spending the time killing this guy, I'm just gonna use a Memory of Grace and leave. So I lost my runes, so either come prepared to fight him, or spend any runes you have before you come down here. Now that we've got the 2 bell bearings, it's time to go to the Roundtable Hold and start upgrading some of our weapons. Specifically, we're going to upgrade the Shield of the Guilty that we picked up earlier, because we're going to use that to kill an NPC, which is going to drop the Antspur Rapier, which is what we're going to use to kill Radahn and Mohg. So go to the north hallway of the Roundtable Hold, give the 2 bell bearings to the Twin Maiden Husks, and now you can buy Smithing Stones 1, 2, 3, and 4 from them in infinite supply. So we have golden runes. Use them if you need the runes to be able to buy some Smithing Stones. You need to have a total of 12 each. So I had already picked up a couple, so I only had to buy like 8 1s and 10 2s, so I had a total of 12 each. Then we're going to go over to Hugh and the South Wing, and we're going to upgrade the Shield of the Guilty to at least plus 6. I found plus 6 to be enough, but if you're having trouble killing the NPCs, you might want to bring it up to like plus 9 or plus 12, but plus 6 should be good enough. And then while we're here, we're going to put Shield Crash on the Shield of the Guilty, because that's what we're going to use to kill the NPC. And also, we're going to put Golden Vow on any weapon. In my case, I decided to put it on my club. But if you have something lighter, like a dagger or a cestus or whatever, that's better to put it on. Now we're going to go back to the Erdtree Gazing Hill. We're going to head down into the ravine just to the east of it, and we're going to follow it straight north up to the Shaded Castle. Along the way, we're going to make a stop by the old Altus tunnel. This is where we need the 2 Stone Sword keys we picked up earlier, so make sure you have 2 Stone Sword keys. So go down into the ravine, you'll come to this troll and this wraith caller here, make a left and go past them, and you'll see there's a Stone Sword key door here. So you need 2 keys to be able to open it, so make sure you have them. Yeah, look at that. And watch. What's interesting is when he's going to get hit into it, and it makes his horse disappear, because the no horse zone applies to NPCs too. So that's interesting. That's something I learned today. But anyway, so go into the Altus tunnel, kill these motherfuckers if you need to, so they don't bother you. In this tunnel, there are 8 Smithing Stone 5s. We need a total of 12, and we picked up 5 at the sealed tunnel, so that'll bring us up to a total of 13. So you can miss one, which ends up being useful, because I missed one here before I died. Anyway, so there's the Smithing Stone 5s, and also in this shack, there's the Boltdrake Talisman +1, and that's actually going to come in handy later too. I actually picked that up without realizing that was even here. I was like, ooh, what's this? And I picked it up, but then it ended up being useful because there's an enemy we need to kill later that does lightning damage. So yeah, that was nice. But anyway, so, just run around the tunnel, try not to die. Obviously, on your left here, you see that Smithing Stone I missed? That's the one that I missed. The one on the wall right there. So make sure you grab that. It's better if you take your time and, fight the enemies instead of just trying to run past them all. If you upgrade the Uchi to +12, then you'll have a much better time killing all these guys. But I just ran past them because I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to grab them all and then die. So also, don't bring any runes down here that you're not willing to lose, because we're going to need to buy more smithing stones, and we're going to need that shit. And one more thing, I'm about to grab the last stone and then die here, totally on purpose, by the way. I totally died on purpose. The boss here is a Stone Digger Troll. It doesn't drop anything useful to us, it's just the Troll's Hammer, but it's easy to kill, and it drops a bunch of runes, which might come in handy if you end up fighting it. But the main thing we came here was the Smithing Stone 5s. You see, I have 12 of them. I missed 1, so I didn't have 13, but we only need 12, so that's cool. So you might have noticed I totally died on purpose because I tried to drink a healing flask and I was out of flasks, and so I got stuck in the animation, and that's why I intentionally died. So make sure you upgrade your flasks using all the golden seeds and the sacred tears that we picked up. You should have a bunch of them, and they should be up to +9 at this point. Anyway, so now we're going to head up the rest of the ravine, up to the Shaded Castle. So just from the entrance to the old Altus tunnel, just make a left and just go straight north. You'll find the Shaded Castle here. There's a rock on the outer wall right over here, just around the corner. You can climb up the rock, and there's a set of grace here. This is the closest grace to the NPC we need to kill, so grab it in case you die. We're going to use the Shield of the Guilty with Shield Crash on it, and then I have any other weapon, in this case my club, with the Golden Vow Ash of War. I have Radahn Sword Seal, and I decided to equip this absolutely fabulous Finger Maiden outfit just because I didn't want to be naked. So we're going to two-hand the shield. You see instructions on screen for how to two-hand it. Two-handing the shield is going to be helpful because, 1, we're only using the shield, so there's no reason not to two-hand it, and 2, it slightly increases your guard boost, so if the enemy hits you while you're doing Shield Crash, because Shield Crash counts as blocking while you're in the animation. If the enemy hits you, then it'll drain a little bit less stamina, and that might make it just a bit easier to kill him. So once you're ready, head over to the west of the Shaded Castle. We're going to come over to this graveyard, drink your Wondrous Physic. I know I had the Strength tier in this, and I think I also had the Spiked Crack tier, though I'm not sure. But the only one that really matters is the Strength tier right now anyway. Drink your Physic, cast Golden Vow, go a little bit further into the graveyard, and you'll see this guy, Malay Moray. So there's that golem in the background off in the distance, and it's going to start walking towards us and kick our ass. So I like to lead him away from the golem so we have a bit more time to kill him. And essentially what you're going to do is just try to get him up against a wall and hold down Shield Crash. You see it hits him a bunch of times, which does a bunch of bleed buildup because the shield does bleed buildup. And then it also knocks him down. And if you get him up against a wall, that makes it really easy to stun lock him and just kill him with the bleeds. So we're going to do that. He has a little bit of health left, so I tried to hit him. Didn't work, so I just went back to Shield Crash. Once he dies, you will get the Antspur Rapier, as well as his outfit. And so the Antspur Rapier is the weapon we're going to use to kill Radahn and Mohg. Now we're going to upgrade the Antspur Rapier to plus 15. I went back to Hugh at the Roundtable Hold, and I sold him all of my golden runes that I had. So we need to buy 12 each of smithing stones 1 through 4. And you saw on the screen just now, I said it's going to take 32,720 runes total to buy all the smithing stones and upgrade the Antspur Rapier. I ended up not having enough runes to buy all the smithing stones, and then I decided to run to some more graveyards and get more runes, which you see me doing in the background. I have a bunch of footage of this, but it took forever to fucking do, and I don't want to make this video be even longer than it already is. So I ended up having to come to these graveyards to get more runes. Then I went and bought the smithing stones, and I still didn't have enough runes to level up the Antspur. So instead of including all of that footage of me running back and forth between graveyards and shit, in the description of the video, there's going to be a link to like a 5-minute video. It's not going to be my video, it's going to be someone else's video. But there'll be a link to like a 5-minute long video about farming some runes real quick without having to like do any work at all. It's going to be over in the Dragonbarrow. There's a ball you can farm. You see my fucking despair here because I was out of runes. So I just did that shit off screen. You can just go watch that 5-minute video real quick instead of me spending 20 minutes running around graveyards. But the point is, get the Antspur Rapier up to plus 15 using the smithing stones that we picked up and the smithing stones that we bought. Okay, so we're halfway through the video. We are nearly done with the setup. We're almost at the point where we get to start killing bosses. There's just like 4 more things we need to grab. So we head back over to the Outer Wall Battleground side of Grace. We're going to go to the Highway Lookout Tower to the north of it, and then after that we're going to go down the Rampart side path to the southwest. So there's this camp here that has the Highway Lookout Tower. Along the way, you're going to pass by a scarab, and if you kill it, it drops the Lightning slash Ash of War, which is really good. I ended up not grabbing it or showing it here, but you should grab it while you're here. Anyway, so go to the Highway Lookout Tower. At the top of it, there's a couple bad guys to kill. You're a plus 15 Antspur Rapier. We'll kill them very easily. And in the chest, there is a great bow with some great arrows, which we're going to use to cheese a boss later on that's just really tedious and obnoxious to fight, alongside the bewitching branches. After that, we're going to go back to the Outer Wall Battleground, and this time you make a left when you come out the wall, and you can follow the path down to this. First of all, there's a graveyard here, so if you need to pick up some more golden runes, make sure you grab these. I ended up not using them, I think. But anyway, you will come to the Rampart side path, Site of Grace, over here, which you can see on the map as such. And we're coming over here because there is another church here, which has the final sacred tier that we're going to pick up to upgrade our flasks up to plus 10. Along the way to the Stormcaller Church, there's another graveyard where you can grab some more golden runes in case you need them. And then once we get to the church, there's some great bolts. Those aren't relevant. But there is also a sacred tier, and that lets us upgrade our flasks to plus 10. By this point, you should have a total of 9 flasks, and they should be upgraded to plus 10. Finally, we're going to head back over to Limgrave, where we're going to stop by Murkwater Cave for an item that we need in order to kill Margit, and also we're going to start Yura's questline, because that'll get us an item that'll make killing Mohg a lot easier later on. So, from the Gatefront Ruins, you can head east and go down into the Murkwater Ravine. This time, instead of going down around to the south, I decided to drop down from the Murkwater Coast side of Grace, and then I just head south into the ravine. We'll be invaded by Blutterfinger Nereus, so use Golden Vow, drink your Physic, and then just murk him with Shield Crash. Should be pretty easy. His Blood Blades, if he starts doing his ranged Blood Blade attack, that can fuck you up through the shield, so be careful of that. But he really shouldn't have too many chances to attack you. Once he's dead, we're going to go back north up the ravine and under the giant ruin here, where we're going to talk to Yura. Talk to him until his dialogue is completely exhausted and he repeats himself. He says, "Perhaps we'll meet again if fate permits." Make sure he's saying that. I see all the time people can't figure out how to get Yura to move because they don't finish his dialogue. You have to completely exhaust his dialogue before he'll move to his other locations in this quest. So make sure he says, "Perhaps we'll meet again if fate permits." Then we're going to go back into the ravine, and on the west side of it is the Murkwater Cave. In here, I decided to use my unupgraded Uchi because we're going to fight the boss Patches, and he surrenders halfway through the fight. He's a merchant after you beat him here, so you don't want to accidentally kill him, so that's why I didn't use the Antspur Rapier at plus 15, because that might accidentally kill him, especially with the poison or the Scarlet Rot buildup that it does. But Patches shouldn't be too hard. Just get him to half health, and then he'll surrender. Give him a few seconds, and the fight will end. And then once he finishes talking, you can talk to him, and he will tell you to come back later. So fast travel to the Site of Grace to reload the area. Then when you come back to Patches, he'll be a merchant and you can buy stuff from him. You're going to need 5,000 runes so you can buy Margit's Shackle from him. This is going to make killing Margit super easy. We need to kill Margit because Margit drops a Talisman pouch, and that is going to be necessary for the build. I also picked up the 3 gold pickled fowl feet and the crafting recipe for gold pickled fowl feet that Patches sells. I ended up forgetting to use the fowl feet, but they increase the amount of runes that you get when you kill bosses, so I will talk about those more when we use them. But yeah, so the main thing we came here for, though, is Margit's Shackle, so that we can really easily kill Margit. So real quick, I just want to put this list on screen of the stuff that we have, because there's a bunch of shit that we did, and it's kind of important that we have all this stuff. You need the Vigor, so that you don't die. You need the Strength and Dexterity, boosted to 15 and 20 by Radahn and Mohg, so you can wield the Antspur Rapier. Antspur Rapier is at plus 15. You have a bunch of flasks, and we've got Golden Vow, Margit's Shackle, and Blood Grease. So now that we're 45 minutes into this video, we're finally done with the first phase of setup, and there will be a second setup phase too. Sorry. There's a lot of shit we gotta do to kill these bosses. But anyway, so it's time to go and kill Margit and Godric in Stormveil Castle. So, in our Wondrous Physic, we've got the Strength Knot Crystal Tear, and then whatever Crystal Tear you want. I just have the Crimson one because that's the only other one I had. For our weapons, we've got the Antspur Rapier, upgraded to plus 15. You've got any weapon with the Golden Vow, Ash of War. You can wear whatever armor you want, doesn't really matter. We've got Radahn Sword equipped to boost our Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dex by 5 each, so that we meet the requirements for the Antspur Rapier, and so that we don't die, so we have enough Vigor. And then we've got Margit's Shackle and Blood Grease on our hotbar. You should also have Gold Pickled Fowl Feet, and you're not going to see me use it here, so I drank the Physic, I cast Golden Vow, then I put Blood Grease on the Rapier, and I went into the fight. Eat a Gold Pickled Fowl Foot too after you drink the Wondrous Physic. So it's something I forgot to do here. Anyway, so run up to Margit, hit him with the Shackle to lock him to the ground, and you can stab the shit out of him. You should inflict Rot on him by the time you're done with that. He'll go to phase 2, so you won't be able to use the Shackle a second time, but it doesn't matter because you're going to kill him so fast. And then after that, just keep looking for opportunities to stab him. You should be able to proc and bleed, and then, you know, it only takes a couple more hits, and he will die. So I had forgotten to take the Gold Pickled Foulfoot here. He drops 12,000 runes by default. If you take the Foulfoot, I think it goes up to like 15 or 16,000. We're going to need to level up a few more times before this guide is done. So it's important that you make use of the Gold Pickled Foulfeet when you kill Margit and Godric, and I'm going to talk about them a couple more times too. So after that, I went and I leveled up my strength a little bit. I think I put like 1 point into it. By the end of this, we're going to have, I think, like 16 strength or something like that. So here, I have it listed here. We're going to have 40 Vigor, 16 Strength, 24 Dex, and 10 Arcane. And that's all before Radahn Sword. So I put the point into Strength, just to, you know, spend the point in case I die here inside Stormveil Castle. So we're going up to Godric, and I decided to just sprint through it and speed up through the footage. You should explore Stormveil because it's a cool dungeon. There's a lot of cool shit to get here. But, you know, for the purpose of this guide, I just want to kill Godric. Because not only does he drop a whole bunch of runes, he also drops his Remembrance, which I'm going to use for runes, and then he also lets us start Vare's questline so that we can get to Mohgwyn Palace to farm some more runes and kill Mohg. Once you've made your way to Godric in the northeast corner of Stormveil Castle, we have the same loadout as we did for Margit, so it's the Antspur at plus 15, any weapon Golden Vow, any armor you want, Radahn Sword and Blood Grease. We're not going to use Margit's Shackle because it doesn't work on Godric because he's not Margit. And you're going to see here, this time I'm not going to forget to use my Gold Pickled Foulfoot. So drink the Physic, then eat the Foulfoot. Now, Godric is a special case because his death dialogue is super long, so you have time after you kill him to eat the Foulfoot. So I recommend you do that in case you manage to die to him, so you don't end up wasting any Foulfeet. So eat the Foulfoot after you kill him. You'll see what I'm talking about when I kill him. Anyway, so drink the Physic, cast Golden Vow, put Blood Grease on the Rapier, go into the fight, and you're just going to stab Margit, not Margit, Godric. You're going to stab him to death. He's pretty weak, so with the 40 Vigor that we have, we have 35 base Vigor, plus Radahn Sword boosting it up to 40. If he hits you, he's not going to do all that much of your health, so it should be pretty easy to stay alive. so you shouldn't have too much trouble with him, which is why I'm not really going into like strategy about how to fight him and how to dodge his attacks and shit, because that would make the video even longer as it is. Here's something though, when you go into phase 2, you can immediately hit him with a couple charged heavy attacks, and then I hit him with the impaling thrust that the Antspur Rapier comes with, and that gets a poise break on him, so you can just kill him really easily in phase 2. And you see here, so after he dies, he talks for like 20 seconds, and so that gives you plenty of time to eat your gold pickled foulfoot, and that way when the runes get dropped to you, you will get boosted by them, and you don't have to worry about dying during the fight and losing a foulfoot. So once he's dead, eat the foulfoot, grab the grace, and we're going to use it to level up. I put more points into strength. Like I said, we're going to get 16 strength, so that's what I was working on. So now with Margit and Godric dead, it's time to start preparing to fight Radahn. This setup phase is going to be a lot shorter than the first setup phase, so don't worry too much about it. So we're going to head back up to Liurnia. From the Lasciar ruins, we're going to come to this island over here, so you can see it's the second island after the telescope. There's a crystal tier on that island that I marked, and then you see this island with this like angle on it. If you put your crosshair on the angle and then just go straight down, you can put a waypoint there, and that'll take you to the Lakeside Crystal Cave, where we're going to grab a Talisman. Before we go to either of those things, we're going to stop by that gazebo with the telescope and talk to Raya, so that we can start her quest, because we're going to buy a consumable from the Blackguard here, called Boiled Prawn, and then later on Boiled Crab, and you need to do Raya's quest for that. So anyway, here's that island I marked. It has the Dexterity Knot Crystal Tear. There's also a bunch of Albinarchs on it, so be careful not to get owned by them. But we're going to grab the Dexterity Crystal Tear, and then just to the northeast of it, there's the Boil Prawn Shack. So grab the Grace, talk to the Blackguard, and you will be able to buy Raya's necklace from him for 1,000 runes. And then we don't have to actually bring it back to Raya for this guide, so I didn't bother to do that. But if you close his dialogue and then talk to him again, he will now sell you Boiled Prawn. Don't buy too much of it, because we're going to buy Boiled Crab later on, but just buy like 5 or 6 of them, and that'll be fine. They're 600 runes each, but they're worth having. They increase your physical damage resistance by, I think, like 15%, so they're really good. After that, we're going to head down to the Lakeside Crystal Cave, which I had marked. And here, we're going to just run past a whole bunch of demi-humans and grab the Spear Talisman out of a chest. If you have a torch or a lantern, that's helpful, but it's pretty short, so it shouldn't be too hard to make your way through the dark. And you see in this chest, there's the Spear Talisman. Be careful not to get owned by the demi-humans. There is a boss in this cave. You can see on the left when you're coming back, you can drop down the cliff thing there and get down to him, but he's optional. We don't need to fight him for this guide right now. We came here for the Spear Talisman, so we're going to use Radahn Source Seal and the Spear Talisman, now that we have 2 Talisman slots. Up next, we're going to Caelid. So we haven't really gone to like the main Caelid yet in this guide, so I just want to show on the map real quick. From the Third Church of Marika, if you go north, there's these cliffs here. There are spirit springs that let you go up the cliffs to the road, and then you just follow the road east and then south into Caelid, and it just pretty much takes you straight to Redmane Castle. So just follow the road. You'll come to like this triangle-shaped junction in the road here, and that's where the map fragment is. And then once you have the map fragment, you can easily follow along. So there's a Site of Grace right there in case you need one. We need to go into the swamp. So you'll see, if you look at the map, you can see that bend there that I had my crosshair on, and then if you just go straight north from it, there's a island-looking thing that you can mark. It's kind of like a white spot. It's a route from the Scarlet Aeonia. So you can mark that, and that's where we're going, and we're going to use that as a landmark to get to the scarab we need to kill in order to get an Ash of War that we can use to kill Radahn. So you're going to need fire pots for this, because this is another teleporting scarab. If you get too close to it, it teleports away, so you need to kill it from range, and fire pots are good for that. So what I like to do is lock onto it, walk forward a little bit so that you're facing directly towards it. Then you can unlock, and you just aim up a little bit, and you can throw the fire pot, and it should hit the scarab. It might take a couple tries, but hit the scarab, and when it dies, it drops the Poisonous Mist Ash of War. After that, we're going back to the junction where we picked up the map, and you're going to follow the road south to the Impassable Great Bridge, which takes us to Redmane Castle. Along the way, there's a golden seed here, so make sure you grab that. Be careful not to get killed by all the giant dogs along the way, but once you get to the Impassable Great Bridge, grab the Site of Grace, and you'll see this teleporter here. This teleporter only activates when the Radahn Festival has started. The Radahn Festival will start either once you've progressed part of Ranni's questline, or if you have rested at a Site of Grace in the Altus Plateau. So that's part of the reason why we went up there earlier. So if this teleporter isn't active, go up to the Altus Plateau and sit down at any site of grace there. And when you come back, the teleporter should be active. It takes you straight inside Redmane Castle, and then from here, you just run north a little bit, and there's a site of grace called Chamber outside the plaza. Alright, so we're just about ready to fight Radahn. We've got our Antspur Rapier at plus 15. We're going to put Poisonous Mist on it and give it the poison affinity. We've got any weapon we want with the Golden Vow Ash of War, preferably a light one like a dagger or something. In our Wondrous Physic, we've got the Strength Knot Crystal Tear and the Dexterity Knot Crystal Tear. These boost our strength and our dex by 10, and that's going to make the Antspur Rapier do a lot more damage. We've got Radahn Soreseal equipped, so we need at least 35 Vigor. That'll boost us up to 40 Vigor. And then we need at least 10 Strength, which will boost us up to 15 Strength with the Soreseal, and 15 Dexterity, which boosts us up to 20 with the Soreseal. So you can see my stats here are all boosted by the Soreseal. This is my loadout, so we got the Antspur, Golden Vow. Armor, I usually say that armor is mostly cosmetic and doesn't matter all that much, but this is one of those circumstances where I was like, you know what, I think having some armor would help. So I went to the Twin Maiden Husks and I bought the Knight set. It costs, I think the total cost of it is 13,500 runes. So we have some golden runes that we can use, but I decided to just use Godric's Remembrance. Normally I recommend not using Remembrances for runes, but for the sake of this guide and because Godric's weapons are kind of bad, I decided to just use his Remembrance for the 20,000 runes that it gives us, and that gave us enough to buy the Knight set. So whether or not you use that Remembrance to do that is up to you. I generally recommend getting the Remembrance weapons and, you know, having them collected, but it's up to you whether or not you care about that. Radahn Soreseal boosts our endurance by 5 points, so if you have at least 10 endurance, then you should be able to wear this entire loadout. If you decide to level endurance at all, I don't recommend going any higher than 15 base endurance, because you just really don't need that much endurance. It's really a very, very secondary stat to everything else that we're leveling up here. But yeah, so get enough endurance that you can wear the Knight set and all the weapons that we have equipped and the talismans. And then also we've got Boiled Prawn as our consumable. Now, since we've been up to Altus Plateau, you can go over to the moat by Leyndell. So from the Outer Wall Battleground, we're going to come over here later too. But from the Outer Wall Battleground, if you follow this road down into the moat, you'll find the Blackguard here, because he moves here after you've talked to Raya and bought the necklace from him. And in that moat, he will sell you Boiled Crab, which is the same price as Boiled Prawn, but stronger. I decided not to do that right now, because we're going to go over there anyway, and I didn't want to run back and forth. So I'm just sticking with the Boiled Prawn, which ended up being more than enough. So go into Redmane Castle, go up to Jaren and talk to him. Finish his dialogue afterwards, so that you get that gesture, the Heartening Cry. If you don't get it from him there, then you have to go into New Game Plus to get it. So make sure you get that gesture. Then we're going to go down to the beach, and we're going to take the teleporter and go fight Radahn. When you start the Radahn fight, what you're going to do is immediately turn around, get on Torrent, and run backwards. Keep your camera facing towards Radahn. If he shoots an arrow at you, stop and then get off of Torrent while you're standing still. That dismounting animation has iframes, so the arrow won't hit you. And then what you can do is just immediately get back on Torrent and run backwards a bit. Run backwards till Radahn disappears, then go forward, and as you approach him, he should aim off to the side and shoot an arrow into the sea. That means that he's done shooting arrows now, because you despawned him, so he's going to run towards you. So at this point, drink your Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow, eat a Boiled Prawn, and get ready with the Rapier. You're going to run up to Radahn, and he should do this attack usually. Sometimes he won't. But if you roll toward him and then stick on his left side, he usually doesn't hit you during that. So you can hit him with Poisonous Mist to poison him really fast, and then just poke the shit out of him. You essentially want to stay underneath and behind him as much as possible. And so you see here, he's hitting me, he's getting hits on me and stuff, but between the Vigor, Armor, and Boiled Prawn, he's not actually doing all that much damage, so it should be pretty easy to stay alive, especially since we have a bunch of healing flasks. When you get him to about 75% health, he'll do this move. So he's going to whack his two swords together like this. He goes, wow, whack. And then he plunges them into the ground, and he lifts them back up. So if you roll behind him, you can get behind the horse and stab the horse's ass a bunch, and that'll do a lot of damage, and you'll be pretty safe. He also usually follows this up with his Starcaller Cry, and so you roll that, and then you get a bunch more opportunities to stab the horse's ass. In my case, he went to phase 2 before he did the follow-up. So when he jumps up into the air, stand still, look up at the sky, and get on Torrent. he spawns in the direction that you're facing, so wait till you see him and then just run off to the side, and that's how you don't get owned by his meteor attack. And then it's in phase 2 that I like to start summoning the NPCs around the arena. They'll just help us out and make it really easy to kill him. He's poisoned and he should be rotted at this point, so really the damage over time from that, it won't kill him on its own, but if you set the boys on him, then that'll fuck him up. I also want to mention, if you fight him without using the summons, you should be able to just stab the shit out of him. If you stay on top of him, so when he does his meteor strike attack, if you run just far enough that you don't get hit by it and then come back, he does a startup animation where he summons these rocks that you see floating around him, and you should have plenty of time to get a bunch of hits in there and pretty much kill him before he can even actually start fighting. But if you summon the NPCs, make sure you go get involved, because sometimes he'll randomly switch aggro over to you and attack you, and if you're not paying attention, that'll fuck you up. So once he's dead, there'll be a cutscene. The Starfall crater will open up in Limgrave. We can't fast travel to it because we have to activate the Site of Grace here in Radahn's arena. So it's to the northeast of where you spawn. It's on top of the tallest dune in the arena. You see me looking at Alex here. We're not going to talk to him for this guide. He's not relevant to this guide. But if you want to do his quest, that's the first spot where you need to talk to him. A lot of people miss him there and then they can't figure out how to do his quest. You have to talk to him on Radahn's battlefield after killing Radahn. Anyway, fast travel over to Fort Height, rest at the Grace and pass time until day, and that'll make it a lot easier to see what you're doing in this crater, and then you're just going to go down into the crater. So this is a bit of a run, and I think I just sped through the entire thing here. I don't think I cut it out, but I sped up all the footage. We need to go through Nokron to go and get the Black Wet Blade, which will allow us to put the Blood Affinity on the Antspur Rapier, which is going to make killing Mohg super easy. So we're just going to speed run it through Nokron. Obviously, as usual, along the way there's a bunch of stuff to grab and stuff to explore and find and shit, but for the purpose of this guide, I'm just rushing through it. There's a rune arc there, by the way. A lot of people miss that, so make sure you grab it. So this boss is the Mimic tier, and what it does is it mimics you and your loadout. So once you enter the arena, before you walk forward, if you unequip all your stuff, then when the Mimic tier spawns in, it'll be completely naked and it won't have any weapons. So it'll be super weak. It won't be able to do any damage to you because bare fists don't do any damage. I tried using fire pots here to kill it before it spawns in because it's like a blob on the ground, and if you do enough damage to it, then you can kill it before the fight even starts. But I didn't do enough damage and I messed it up, so he spawned in and now he has fire pots because I had them equipped. But what I recommend you do is just get completely naked, unequip all of your items, all your armor, talismans, consumables, all that stuff. Walk up to the Mimic tier so it spawns in, and then you can re-equip your armor. It won't be able to hurt you, so you don't really need to worry about standing still and having it hit you. Re-equip your armor and equip the Shield of the Guilty with Shield Crash, and just use Shield Crash to fuck them up. I ended up running out of FP, so I switched over to the Uchi. I probably should have switched over to the Antspur, so I don't know why I used the Uchi. But yeah, so once he's dead, spend any runes that you have. I put them into Dexterity, because that's where we're getting most of our Antspur Rapier damage from. By the end of this guide, we're going to have 26 Dex, so, spend those runes on that, and make sure you have the Vigor too. The Vigor is really important. And then after that, we're going to re-equip all our shit, and we're just going to go across this aqueduct into Nokron. So the entrance to the city of Nokron is a little hidden. What you do is you make a left and you'll pass by that singing lady on the pillar, and then right to the left of her, this is the entrance to Nokron. So grab the Site of Grace, and then we're going to jump down onto the rooftops. Make sure you watch your step. There's a few jumps you got to make here, so be careful not to fall and die. But we're essentially going to go through Nokron. Again, there's a bunch of shit to pick up here. I'm running past most of it just because all I care about getting for this guide is the Black Wet Blade, but you should explore the place more and grab all the stuff that's here. So once you get to this room, you're going to grab the Black Wet Blade, and also I didn't end up taking it, but right here inside this room, this is where you get the Mimic tier ashes. So if you want those for the Mohg fight, this is the place to get it. Check out my video on how to get it to +10. Anyway, after that, we're going to go back to the Roundtable hold and talk to Enya, the Finger Reader. Now that we've killed 2 demigods, being Godric and Radahn, she'll give us a talisman pouch, which is going to come in handy, so now we have 3 talisman slots. And we also need to talk to her, and make sure you finish her dialogue, because I've seen it act weird, I'm not sure. But if you don't finish her dialogue, I feel like sometimes it won't let you start Vari's quest, so completely finish all her dialogue. You can go back to the first step after that, and if Vari is gone and he left his message here, then that means you have successfully started his quest. Also, you get the clapping gesture, so make sure you get that. So now we're going to go over to the Rose Church in Liurnia for Vari's quest. So from the Academy Gate Town, to the west of it, you'll see these 3 ruins. So 1, 2, 3. The third one has the fallen ruins of the Lake Site of Grace on it. It's the closest grace to the Rose Church, so make sure you get this, because we're going to have to come back here a couple times. I don't know why they didn't just get the Rose Church of Grace, but whatever. Go to the Rose Church and talk to Vari. Tell him the 2 fingers didn't seem right. He will give you 5 festering bloody fingers. So you either need to invade 3 people, but in multiplayer, but you can see here I'm offline, so I can't even play multiplayer. So instead, what we're going to do is go back up to that Bridge of Iniquity site of Grace we grabbed earlier. Remember, I said we're going to need to come back here. That's why we grabbed that Grace. We're going to go to the Bridge of Iniquity, and to the east of it is the Writhe-Blood Ruins, where there is an NPC that we can kill to progress Vari's quest line. So go to the bridge, and then just head east, and that takes you to the Writhe-Blood Ruins. There's bleed dogs here, so kill them. Be careful not to get owned by them. And the building that you saw I marked on the map, you'll see that there's this invasion sign on the ground. So you can use that to invade Magnus. Now, you don't actually have to kill him, and you're going to see I get owned by him here. You don't actually have to kill him, you just need to use 3 festering bloody fingers. So even if you can't kill him, just invade him 3 times, and that'll let you progress Vari's quest. I killed him because I needed to teabag him, because he has personally insulted me by kicking my ass that first time. He shouldn't be too hard. If you upgrade Shield Crash more, or if you upgrade the Shield of the Guilty more, then you can use Shield Crash to fuck him up more easily. But I just use the Antspur Rapier. Make sure you teabag him in DIABETOR's honor. And then after that, we're going to go back to the Rose Church and talk to Vari again. This time he will give you the Lord of Blood's favor, and he wants you to soak it in the blood of a maiden. And guess what? We know where there's a corpse of a maiden. It's at the Church of Inhibition, so go up to her, interact with her, and you will soak the blood, or the cloth, in her blood. And now, once you go back to Vari, talk to him and offer him your finger. He will give you the bloody finger, which you can use to invade infinitely. And then after that, finish his dialogue and talk to him again, and he will give you the Pure Blood Knight's Medal, which you can use to teleport to Mohgwyn Palace. So go into your inventory, down in your tools section, find the Pure Blood Knight's Medal, and use that shit to go to Mohgwyn Palace. Once you're in Mohgwyn Palace, head up the steps and grab the map off his corpse, then make a left, go up the steps, and grab the Site of Grace. We're not going to go straight up to Mohg yet, because there's a couple more items we need to grab that are going to make him really easy. So first of all, in Mohgwyn Palace, we're going to go down into the Blood Swamp, and we're going to get the White Mask, which gives you a buff when you proc a bleed on an enemy, and since we're going to be using bleed against Mohg, that's going to help us a lot. So, there are 3 nameless White Masks in the swamp, and only the one in the southeast corner that you saw I marked there. You see that like ledge thing? You can use that as a guide to find where to put the marker. Only the one in the southeast corner drops the White Mask. So there's another guy there, and there's another guy here where I put those skulls. Those are not the ones that we need to kill. So what we're going to do is sneak past them so they don't spawn in and bother us, and we're going to come to the southeast corner to kill the one that does drop the White Mask. So from the Site of Grace here, go down, get on Torrent, and run around the corner. What you're going to do is hug the wall here. If you stay close to the wall here, then the nameless White Mask that spawns over here won't spawn in. So stay as close to the cliff as possible. You're going to follow it over here. You'll see there's a bird and a little island thing on your left. Go in between the bird and the island thing, and then that'll let you avoid the second White Mask, and then you just come straight ahead to the southeast, and that takes us over to the White Mask that we need to kill. So we're going to use Shield Crash for this. Now, before you fight him, I recommend you go upgrade the shield to plus 12. This guy has a lot of health because Mohgwyn Palace is an endgame area. The scaling here is really high. So I'm using the shield at plus 6 still, and you see I drank my Physic and I cast Golden Vow before he spawned in. And so the shield does like an okay amount of damage. A lot of our damage is coming from the bleed procs, but if you upgrade it, you'll get way more damage, and it'll be a lot easier to finish him off. I also recommend you take at least 2 or 3 blue flasks to this fight. You see I ran out of FP, so I had to switch over to the Antspur Rapier mid-fight and finish him off with that, and I feel like that might give you some trouble, so I definitely recommend you go upgrade the shield before you fight this guy, but he shouldn't be too tough, and once he dies, he will drop the White Mask. The White Mask gives you a damage buff for 20 seconds after you proc a bleed on an enemy, which is going to make killing Mohg a lot easier. After the White Mask is dead, we're going to head back up through the swamp and this time we're going to go to the east up the Palace Approach Ledge Road, and we're going to farm some runes here so that we can upgrade our Vigor. Now, I am not a proponent of farming, but for the sake of fighting this endgame boss, we really should have endgame stats, so we're going to go and get 60 Vigor so that he doesn't kick our ass. So you can go back through the swamp and then just head to the east, and this will take you up the hill, and this takes you to a Site of Grace. So, if you have an area of effect to kill the Albinarics up there, then you can kill them using something like the Sacred Relic Sword or something, but we don't at the moment. So what I like to do is I go back to the Twin Maiden Husks. We can buy glintstone scraps from them because we gave them the Smithing Stone Miners Bell Bearing number 1, and that lets us buy glintstone scraps. Oh, by the way, you see on the bottom of the map screen, it says show above ground, show underground. You can click that button to toggle between layers on the map. So, in case you can't figure out how to travel back to Mohgwyn Palace, that's how you do it. I see a lot of people not figure that out. But anyway, equip the glintstone scraps, and then you can look over across the way to the bird over there, and if you lock onto him, you can use the scrap, and it homes in on him, and that makes it really easy to hit him without having to, like, aim a bow. People usually use a bow for this, but I like the scraps because, you know, this just makes it press 2 buttons, and then it automatically hits the fucking bird. So when you hit the bird, it'll aggro on you, and it tries to run toward you and falls off the cliff to its death, and it drops like 11,000 runes when it dies. So then you can sit back down at the Site of Grace, and that'll make it respawn, and you can repeat to your heart's content. Now, I recommend you use this power very sparingly. Don't give in to the temptation. Don't sit here and farm for 8 hours to get to level 400 or whatever. You don't need to do it. There's a bunch of reasons why, and I'm gonna make this its own separate video at some point because I want to rant about this in like an essay. But first of all, you don't need to farm. There's plenty of ways to get runes throughout this game. The main bosses are tough, and if you go into later areas, then the bosses are tougher too. But you know, like the bosses in Limgrave, Caelid, Liurnia, they're easier. You go around the minor dungeons and kill the smaller bosses to get runes so that you can level up to kill big bosses. You know, there's 165 bosses in the game, plus more because of the fucking DLC, right? So you don't need to farm to get runes because you can just get runes by playing the game. And then on top of that, leveling up to like a super high level isn't even what makes you strong, okay? The only reason I'm farming here at all is to get more Vigor because that'll help you survive against Mohg for longer. And I didn't even end up getting 60 Vigor here. I went up to like 42 by the end of this guide, boosted up to 47 because of Radahn Source Seal, okay? You really don't need to farm. If you do farm here because, you know, you want to fight Mohg or whatever, get 60 Vigor and then have that be the end of it. You know, you don't need to farm up to a super high level because it's not going to be what makes you powerful. Making the number bigger is not a substitute for practice and experience and, more importantly, upgrading your weapon so you do more damage, okay? So please, for the love of you and your enjoyment in this game, I'm asking you, don't sit here and farm. Just get 60 Vigor at most and then have that be the end of it. Anyway, now that I'm done bitching, we're going to go and finish Yura's questline so that we can get the Purifying Crystal Tear to make it easier to fight Mohg. So first we need to get into Raya Lucaria Academy. So west of the Academy, there's this island, and there's the key to enter the Academy, being guarded by the dragon here. So I'd like to sneak up behind the dragon and then just grab the key. You don't have to fight the dragon. Then you go up to the gate, and you can use the key to enter into the Academy. So we came from the south there, and what we're going to do is head to the northeast this way. You can run past this onto this bridge, and you'll see there's an invasion sign on the ground where you can invade and help Yura fight some guy. But down at the end of this bridge, there's a golden seed, so make sure you grab that while you're here. Come back up, interact with the invasion sign, and you'll invade the world of the, what's his name? Ravenmount Assassin, yeah. And so you're helping Yura fight this guy. Unlike a real invasion, you don't have friendly fire with Yura, so you don't have to worry about killing him. If he dies, there's no problem. And you should kick the Ravenmount Assassin's ass because we have a plus 15 Antspur Rapier. Once that's done, you'll come back to your world, and immediately on your right, you'll see Yura. So you have to talk to him until his dialogue is exhausted. So once he says, perhaps we'll meet again if fate permits, that's when you can move to the next spot. Make sure you talk to him until he says, perhaps we'll meet again if fate permits. A lot of people miss that, so that's why I emphasize it every time. After that, we're going up to the final part of his quest, which is going to be at the Second Church of Marika in Altus Plateau. So we're going to use Shield Crash. Again, I recommend you upgrade the shield to at least like plus 9, plus 12 for this, because we have to fight a relatively strong NPC here. But this one's easier than the White Mask though. But anyway, so go to the church, you will find Yura on the ground. He will drop dead and drop the Nagakiba, which, you know, you should pick up. I'm not going to use it in this guide, but it's a good weapon. Drink your Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow, and then get ready to fight Eleonora. You're going to hit her with Shield Crash and lock her down. The main thing about her that's dangerous is that she has Dragon Communion incantations. In particular, she can do Greyoll's Roar, which is like an area of effect explosion essentially around her. So if she gets that off, it might hit you, so you really want to keep up the pressure on her and try to make sure that she doesn't get any attacks off. But I mean, you know, I guess that's what we've been doing to all the NPCs anyway. But she shouldn't be too hard to kill, and when she dies, not only does she drop her Bull Blade, but she also drops the Purifying Crystal Tear, which we're going to use against Mohg. So Mohg has his infamous knee heal attack, and the Purifying Crystal Tear makes you take very little damage from it. It's a completely unavoidable attack, so it's good to have the Crystal Tear. So the last two items we need to get for this guide are inside of Leyndell, and in order to get into Leyndell, we need to kill the Draconic Tree Sentinel. So we're going to go back to the Outer Wall Battleground site of Grace. This is the closest Grace to the Draconic Tree Sentinel, and it's really far away, so make sure you get set up here before you run all the way over to fight him, so you don't have to run back. So on the Antspur Rapier, now that we have the Black Wet Blade from Nokron, we can give it the Blood Affinity on the Poisonous Mist Ash of War. So this way, we can do Blood, Scarlet Rot, and Poison buildup all at once. It's not quite as strong as it sounds, but it is really strong, and I like using it against Draconic Tree Sentinel and against Mohg. So we've got our Antspur Rapier with the Blood Affinity and Poisonous Mist Ash of War. We've got any weapon with the Golden Vow Ash of War on it. We've got our White Mask. We've got the Knight's Armor. We've got Radahn Sword Seal. We have the Spear Talisman. We've got the Boltdrake Talisman +1, which we're using because Draconic Tree Sentinel does a bunch of lightning damage, so it's good to have this for the extra protection from it. And I have Boiled Prawn here, but we're actually going to stop by the moat and grab Boiled Crab from the Blackguard. So since we did Raya's little errand down in Liurnia, where we bought the necklace from him and then bought some prawn from him, now he will move over here to the moat next to the Draconic Tree Sentinel, and we can buy Boiled Crab from him here. So from the Outer Wall Battleground, follow the road all the way east. Again, it's a long-ass run, so make sure you're prepared before you come over here so you don't have to run back in case you forgot something. So when you come over to the woods here, you're going to stick to the right and follow the road down into the moat. And then right behind you is the Blackguard, so you can talk to him, sell him some runes so that you can buy Boiled Crab. It costs 600, which is the same as the Boiled Prawn, but it's stronger, so buy the Boiled Crab because we're going to use it. It gives us a stronger buff. And then instead of going back up the road, what I like to do is come through this little ravine, and then to your left, there's a Spirit Spring here, and you can jump up this to get up here behind the Golem Archers, so you don't have to deal with them. And then what we're going to do is just follow the way around to the right, and that takes us up to the Draconic Tree Sentinel. As usual, we're going to drink the Wondrous Physic. Oh, make sure you don't have the Purifying Crystal Tear in it yet. You still should have the Strength Tier and the Dex Tier. Drink the Wondrous Physic, cast Golden Vow. You just saw my equipment there if you need a reminder. And then I ate a Boiled Prawn. I should have had a Boiled Crab, but Boiled Prawn is good enough. But you should use Boiled Crab, obviously. Run up to him and then get like slightly behind him on his right side, and then you can hit him with Poisonous Mist, and that attack won't hit you, and that gives you a lot of time to just stab the shit out of him. After that, what you're going to do is basically just hit him once or twice and then get ready to respond to what he does. Just keep an eye on his weapon and get ready to dodge. If you mindlessly mash the attack button, then, you know, he's going to catch you mid-swing and you're going to keep getting hit. So you want to hit him once or twice and then get ready to dodge. You should be doing plenty of damage over time between the poison and the rot. And then the bleed procs are not only going to take out big chunks of his health, but it also makes the White Mask give you the damage buff. And you saw there, I didn't even finish him off. If you get him down to like 30% health, then the Scarlet Rot and the Poison will finish him off for you. So you can get him down to like 30% health and then just fucking run away and let the damage over time kill him. But once he's dead, we're going to go inside of the capital. So I'm just going to speed through this real quick because there's not really anything along the way here. Oh my god, the big tree, wow. So we're going to grab the East Capital Rampart site of Grace here. And so where we need to go is to the sewers beneath Leyndell, and the entrance to the sewers is underneath the giant dragon's wing. So I'm going to show you how to get there, and here's how you can like figure it out for yourself. So what I did is I equipped the Great Bow, since that lets us zoom in, and if you see the giant dragon Gransax, right next to his wing there's those buildings there. There's these 3 buildings next to him, plus a destroyed 4th one underneath his wing. And then just to the left of that, there's the main road that goes through Leyndell. So you're going to take the main road to that area with the 4 buildings. And so if we look on our map, you can see the main road, and then right to the right of it is the area with the 4 buildings. So I'm going to place a marker here, and there's also a set of grace on that second marker. And so with those waypoints placed, you now have a good point of reference that shows you the direction you should be heading in case you get lost throughout the rest of Leyndell. So what I'm going to do is just speed run over to it. Again, as usual, it's a dungeon. There's a fuckload of cool stuff to explore and find and grab, but I'm just going to take the quick way through it. So I'd like to drop down onto the rooftops here, and then you can just jump across the rooftops, and this takes you straight to the main road. And then all you got to do is just go up the road, past where the Erdtree avatar spawns, don't get hit by it. I got lucky with that dodge there, and then make a right, and you will be at the Avenue balcony where you can grab the Site of Grace. From the Avenue balcony, we're going to head down the steps. So if you look at the map here, I'm going to mark the specific building. It's this little square building right here. You really don't need to mark it. I just mark it for the sake of marking it. So don't worry too much about that. It's right next to us. So you're going to go down the steps and make a left. Be careful of the archer over there. Make a left, then make a right. You're going to come over to this like semi-circle, whatever you want to call this. And then if you jump onto the rooftop here, you'll see the well. You can jump down into the well, and this takes you down into the sewers. You've got a gate on your left to go through, and then we're just going straight ahead through the sewers to the subterranean shunning grounds. So just go straight forward. There's a door past all the rats. We're in the subterranean shunning grounds, and immediately on your left, once you drop down, you'll find the underground roadside Site of Grace. Now the Shunning Grounds is also scaled up like a near endgame area, so the enemies down here are really tough, so be careful of them. And by the way, the underground roadside, despite being underground, you don't have to switch layers like you do with Mohgwyn Palace, so keep that in mind in case you need to come back here. But anyway, so go out the door, and then immediately on your left, you'll see this alcove with a ladder, so drop down here. You're going to come into a room with these pipes, and there's a bunch of imps here that are going to attack you and throw shit at you, so be careful of them. But what you're going to do is go up the pipe, make a right, and drop down onto this one that's lit up with the bluish light. Then you're going to go up it, come to the wooden platform, and on your left below you, there's a pipe that you can drop down to, so you can jump down and land on that safely. Then we're going to go to the bottom of this one, and this fall is going to hurt you, so make sure you're at full health so it doesn't kill you, but it won't be a lethal fall as long as you do it from the bottom of the pipe. Then we're going to avoid the lobsters here. So if you come up to this corner and you're heading east, this lobster will spawn. What I like to do is come and hide around the corner here. Now what it did for me once or twice before is it came around like behind me and didn't see me, so I was able to just run up past it. But it didn't do that this time. Instead it just went back to where it spawned in. So what I did is I pulled out the great bow, and I stood behind the corner so the lobster doesn't see me. And if you shoot a great arrow at the wall to the east, then that makes a really loud noise, and it's going to draw the lobster's attention. And so now you got to sneak up and be quick before it turns back and loses its attention on the sound you made. Keep in mind that you can sprint while sneaking, but if you run or sneak up behind it, you can grab Mohg's shackle, which is going to be useful for fighting Mohg. And then there's also this doorway here, and once you go inside, on your right, there is the Site of Grace for the Leyndell Catacombs. We need to kill the boss of the catacombs for the talisman he drops, so before you go into the catacombs, make sure you spend any runes that you have. I put them into my dexterity and my vigor, just so that I had a bit more health to work with. By the way, unequip the great bow to make sure that you're not in heavy load. So this catacombs is really cool. It's a bit of like a spatial puzzle, kinda. It like tricks you. So I'm gonna run through it real fast. Here's a tip: if you use Mohg or Margit's shackle, then you can lower these flame pillars from a distance by using the shackle. But anyway, so I'm just gonna run through this catacombs real quick. But I want to show you like the puzzle of it. So when you go past this omen, it looks like we're dropping back down into the first room we were in, but we're actually on the second level of the catacombs now. It's like a trick. So you're going to go right, go up the steps again. You'll see the flame pillar is up because it starts off, so the one on this level starts off in the down position. When I used Mohg's shackle before, that hit it and made it go up. So when you're on the second level, you're gonna, instead of making the right and going past the omen, you're gonna jump on top of the pillar and it'll take you up to the secret room. But this room's not actually a secret room, it's where you're supposed to go. And so you make a right. If you don't see this doorway here, then you're on the wrong level. That imp just jumped off into the pit, and I think that's fucking hilarious. But anyway, so go past the imps, drop down the ladder, and now we're back on the first level. So don't drop down yet. we need to hit the lever while we're up here, so make sure you do this before you drop down, or else you have to run back through the whole dungeon again. So hit the lever, and then you can drop down, and now we can go to the boss door, which is now open. So what we're going to do here, we're fighting the boss Esger, Priest of Blood. He's an NPC-style enemy that does a ton of bleed build-up, and he has 2 bleed dogs with him. So this fight just sucks, it's super tedious, and I hate it, so we're going to cheese it. So we're going to equip the Bewitching Branches we bought earlier, and we're going to equip the Great Bow. And also, you're going to want to pause, go to your sound settings, mute the music volume, and maximize the sound effect volume so you can hear the footsteps of the dogs. So you're going to shoot a Great Arrow at the floor here. Esger's AI is frozen, but the dog's AI isn't. So when they hear the noise, they'll walk up to the door. I'll shut up so you can hear their breathing and their footsteps. So when it sounds like their breathing is really close, you might also be able to see them like through the wall. They might like stick their nose through the wall a little bit. Use a Bewitching Branch, and if you're in the center of the doorway, then it should hit both of them. There, you can see one of them right in front of me. So when you use the Bewitching Branch, it makes them friendly to you and hostile to Esger, so they'll run over and attack him. His AI is frozen, so he can't fight back, and then they will kill him for you because they do a insane amount of fucking damage for no reason. Once Esger is dead, both dogs will also drop dead, and the Fogwell will disappear, and you'll receive the Lord of Blood's Exaltation Talisman for killing Esger. So good job. You are a god gamer. By the way, make sure you don't forget to set your audio settings back to the way they were, in case that matters to you. With that, we are finally ready to go and kill Mohg. So we're going to go back to the Mohgwyn Dynasty Mausoleum, and we're going to head up the steps through the mausoleum. It's good if you have a torch for when you get to this dark part, especially since it's filled with sanguine nobles. They're going to kick your ass. So these guys, you can just run past them. Just be careful. You might want to run in like a serpentine pattern because they can throw their daggers at you. And along the way, there's that Lord's Rune, so make sure you grab that for 50,000 runes. But yeah, I think you're going to see me get hit here. Yeah, so make sure you run in like a serpentine S-shaped pattern so that they can't hit you in case they throw any daggers at you. But once you get to the Site of Grace, just rest at it, and they will, despawn and leave you alone. So real quick, I just want to go over the list of stuff that we have again for this boss fight. So we've got 40 Vigor, boosted to at least 45 by Radahn Sword Seal. Technically using the Sword Seal suboptimal here, but it's also giving me the endurance that I need to wear all the armor and shit that we've got. So I didn't bother to level up endurance, so that's why I'm using the Sword Seal still. So technically the Sword Seal is actually making you take more damage because we're at 40 Vigor, but it's fine. It's not that much. And if you need an extra boost, then you can go and get 60 Vigor, but I really recommend you don't spend too much time farming because it's just not worth it. It's not worth doing. We've also got 16 Strength, which is being boosted to 21. We've got 26 Dexterity, being boosted to 31. This will give us pretty optimal damage for the Antspur Rapier, according to the Slugbot calculator that you can use on Discord. We've also got the Antspur Rapier, upgraded to plus 15 at least. There are places you can go to get Smithing Stone 6s to bring it up to like 18, and I think you can actually get it up to like plus 20 or plus 21, but don't quote me on that. But plus 15 is enough, and part of this guide is to keep the character at low level so that you can play multiplayer and stuff at lower levels while still having access to the DLC. So that's why I only went up to plus 15. You could technically do this with a plus 12 or lower, but for the sake of the guide, we're doing plus 15. On the Antspur, we've got the Blood Affinity, which we can use because we picked up the Black Wet Blade at Nokron, and we have the Poisonous Mist Ash of War. We also got enough golden seeds to get around 9 or 10 total flasks. I ended up having 11 here because I picked up a couple off screen, but 10 or so was good enough. And they should be upgraded to plus 10 because we picked up all the sacred tears that we can get before going to the mountaintops of the giants. And finally, we have the Golden Vow Ash of War on any weapon, we have Mohg Shackle, and we have the Purifying Crystal Tear. So I'm going to go over all this stuff again in a minute, but I just want to have the list here to make it more clear. So for this fight, I recommend bringing at least 2 blue flasks. So I ended up having 11 total flasks, so I brought 9 red and 2 blue, because we just need to cast a few things, so it's good to have the extra FP. So for our weapons, we have the Antspur Rapier with the Blood Affinity and the Poisonous Mist Ash of War. And we've got the rapier upgraded to at least plus 15. You can go higher if you want, but I think plus 15 is good enough. We also have any weapon with the Golden Vow, Ash of War, preferably something light like a dagger. In our Wondrous Physic, we've got the Strength Knot Crystal Tear and the Purifying Crystal Tear. Now, I know the rapier gets slightly better dex scaling, but having the extra strength be boosted by two-handing the rapier, because when you two-hand a weapon, it gets a 50% effective strength bonus. Having the extra strength will give us more damage than having the 10 extra points of dex. So for our armor, we've got the White Mask and the Knight's Armor equipped. For our talismans, we have Radahn Sword Seal, the Spear Talisman, and the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which works like the White Mask. Once you proc a bleed, it gives you a buff for 20 seconds, and it's really strong. And then finally, we've got Throwing Daggers, because they're just nice to have, and we've got Mohg's Shackle, which we're going to use to lock Mohg down so we can fuck him up. And finally, for extra protection, we're going to be using Boiled Crab, which gives us a bunch of physical damage negation for, I think, 60 seconds. And keep in mind that we have at least 40 Vigor. Preferably, you should get up to 60, but I wanted to keep this character a bit lower level so that you can play the DLC and multiplayer and stuff at lower levels. So I only went up to 40, but if you need extra health, you can go get that up to 60. So you notice there wasn't a fog wall, and then there is a cut to a different clip, and now there is a fog wall. So what I do in my strategy for the fight works better if you do it as the second encounter. So the first time you go into the boss fight, there's a cutscene, and then you spawn in closer to Mohg. My strategy, I feel like it works a lot better, and I feel like the fight is just easier in general if you do it as the second encounter, where you can go through the fog wall and then be further away from Mohg when the fight starts. So that's what I did. So you can just start the fight, watch the cutscene, and then quit out, and that'll spawn you outside, and then you can go in on the second encounter. So on the second encounter, I like to go a little bit into the arena, drink the Physic, cast Golden Vow, drink a blue flask to restore your FP, and then eat Boiled Crab. Run up to Mohg. You should dodge his attack. I failed to dodge that because I'm an idiot. But dodge whatever attack he does, and then hit him with the Shackle. Then use Poisonous Mist and stab him about 4 times. You should do enough damage that when he stands back up, instead of attacking, he'll immediately do his Tress. So he does like a sweep in front of him whenever he does a countdown. So I like to circle strafe around his left, so that's your right. Circle strafe around him and get behind him to hit him again. Then you can use the Shackle on him once the countdown is done. It doesn't work while he's doing the animation. Stab the shit out of him again, and he should take enough damage that he'll do Duo when he stands back up. So again, you're going to circle strafe around behind him on his left side, that's to your right, so that it doesn't hit you. You can get a couple more hits in. So now the Shackle doesn't work anymore, you can only use it twice and in phase 1, so we're going to have to start dodging his attacks. I got hit by that Bloodflame Talons, but I'll show you how to do it. Also, we should have accrued enough poise damage at this point, if you keep up the pressure, that you'll get a poise break after only a couple more hits. So I did the poise break, I got the riposte, and that brought him down to do his Juuuust. So now he's going to do knee heal. You can keep attacking him while he's doing it. I managed to proc another bleed, so his health is pretty low. He's only at about, 40% health at this point. So we don't actually have to do all that much killing, especially since he's still got the Scarlet Rock going. So now we're going to learn how to dodge his attacks. I'm going to rewind a bit. First off, you see when he finishes knee heal, I drank a healing flask, because despite using the Purifying Crystal Tear, it'll still do damage to you, and it's good to stay at full health. So he did his Bloodflame Talons again here. This one you gotta keep an eye out for. So his hand doesn't have a hitbox, but the Bloodflame Talons has a delay. So when he does it, you gotta give it a second and then dodge. And I like to dodge forward just so I stay close to him. You see he did this thrust with his spear. Fortunately, it doesn't really do that much damage, even though I failed to dodge it. He followed up his thrust with his attack where he jumps up in the air and slams the spear down. And so this again is just another delay. You just gotta dodge as you see his feet coming toward the ground. You see there's a punish window afterwards, so I get a couple hits in. Don't get too greedy, just hit him 2, maybe 3 times, and then get ready to dodge again. Here he follows it up with the Bloodflame Talons. So this is a different version of the move where he reels his hand back and then he thrusts it forward like a punch, and that causes an explosion. So when you see him pull his hand back, you got to get ready to dodge, and then you see his left foot, so the one that's on our right, when he steps forward with his left foot, that's when you got to dodge. And he also follows it up with a swipe from his spear. Since his spear is in his right hand, generally you want to dodge forward and to your right, so that's his left. You want to go toward the hand that doesn't have the spear. So you see I dodge forward to the right when he follows it up with the swipe from his spear. I don't go for any attacks, so I have time to dodge it, and then there's a punish window afterwards. When you see him stick his hand up to do the blood rain, he's just going to back off out of it. If you get hit by the blood rain, it's going to fuck you up, so make sure you keep an eye out for that one. I want to point out real quick, you see how when I have distance on him, I hit him with a throwing dagger or two just to make sure his poise doesn't regenerate. That makes it more likely that we'll get a poise break on him at some point. Every now and again, just throw a throwing dagger at him. Here you see he flies away. So he does his blood boon first, where he throws that big spray of blood at you. You gotta roll backwards from that. Afterwards, he's gonna fly at you and do a swipe with the spear. So when you see him pull his spear back, his wings then go up. That's when you need to get ready to dodge. Is after his wings go up, dodge right after that. There's a couple different attacks he can follow that up with. In this case, he did the one where he stabs his spear into the ground, so you gotta keep an eye out for that, which is why I didn't try to attack him. And in the second phase, when he stabs a spear in the ground, it explodes afterwards, so you gotta dodge twice to get away from the explosion too. Here he does his Bloodflame Talons. So again, keep an eye out for that delay, let him do the Talons, give it a moment, and then dodge forward into him. Here he followed it up with another thrust from his spear. I dodged that one successfully. After the thrust, he flies up, so dodge backward from the blood boon, get ready for the swipe coming at you. So he readies the spear, his wings go up, and then when he flies towards you, that's when you dodge. In this case, he decided to do a combo instead of just stabbing the ground. There's a couple of different ways this combo can end. So he'll do a swipe, so you dodge forward toward that. That one's pretty simple. Then afterwards, you have time to get one hit in. Don't get greedy and go for multiple hits. Just do one hit and then dodge the next swipe. And then after this, he might do a stab into the ground that explodes afterwards. So only hit him once and then get ready to dodge that. And if he doesn't do it, then you have time for a bit more of a punish window. Here you see he does a blood rain, so I dodge backwards from that. That causes him to do a swipe, which I dodge by just rolling backwards, but then he also sprays out blood flame that coats the ground. So at this point, what I would do is try to make my way toward the other side of the arena. You want to try to get away from the blood flame that's on the ground, because it does tick damage to you and it does bleed buildup, which can just be a lot of pressure that you don't want to have to deal with. And then afterwards, you're going to see he does a blood boon, so he sticks his hand up in the air and he does a spray of blood that's a horizontal spray. There's two different types of blood boon that he can do, and you have to learn how to identify them. So first, like I said, there's the horizontal one. He sticks his hand up in the middle in front of him, right? So the second one, he sticks it to his side. Here, he puts his hand up in front of him in the middle, right above his head, and then he'll do a horizontal spray, so you have to dodge forward through that. We'll watch that one more time. So he sticks his hand up in front of him, directly above his head, and then when he pulls his hand back, he'll do a horizontal spray at you, so you dodge forward to go through the spray. And then the second version, instead of putting his hand forward in front of him, he pulls his hand backward to the side and then stabs up into the air. So you'll see, watch his hand, he's going to pull it backwards and put it up behind him. When he does this one, it's going to be a straight line at you, so you got to dodge sideways. I like to call this his snipe attack. So if his hand goes forward, you dodge forward, and if his hand goes sideways, you dodge sideways. He also did another combo here, so let's go over that. So if you're at a distance from him, like a medium distance, he'll pull the spear back and then do like a big sweep at you, so you can dodge forward through that. And then he follows it up with another one, so you see I don't attack. So be ready for that second hit and be ready to dodge that. Also, you'll see here that he ended the combo after the two hits. So he does the first one, you dodge forward through that. Don't get greedy, don't attack. Dodge the second one. And then he can do the move where he stabs his spear into the ground and makes an explosion afterwards. So you gotta give him a second to see if he's gonna do that or not before you start attacking. So the fight is all about patience. So now we transition back to the original fight with that original blood boon. I close in on him, dodge an attack, I proc a bleed, and he dies. And so there you go, Mohg is dead, Radahn is dead, and now you can access the DLC. By the way, while Mohg is dying and talking, you should eat a gold pickled foulfoot so you get more runes. But yeah, so he's really not that hard. It's just a matter of being patient and learning the punish windows. Don't stand there and mash the attack button and you'll be fine. And of course, so once he's dead, you can grab the Cocoon of the Empyrean, Site of Grace, and you can touch Miquella's hand in order to enter the DLC. If you rest at the Grace, then Leto will spawn, and you'll get some dialogue from her. So there she is right there. Talking to her here isn't necessary, but, I'm sure you want to talk to the NPC in the DLC. And so after that, welcome to the Realm of Shadow, where you're gonna get your ass kicked because you're low level and the DLC is really fucking hard. But hey, that's a topic for another time. So with this guide, you should still be a relatively low level. In my case, I think I ended this at like 56, with relatively low level weapons. So if you want to be able to do low to mid-level multiplayer such as co-op or invasions, or we only killed a couple bosses, so if you want to be able to play through the game using the weapons and stuff from the DLC, have access to all that. And so I hope you found this helpful, or at least found it entertaining. This video took me really long to make because I've just been so busy and I've just been so exhausted and tired all the time because I work full time, working 9 hours a day, and it fucking sucks. But I'm glad I finally got this out. My content production should pick up after this because I wanted to have a detailed guide about getting into the DLC before I started making videos about getting stuff in the DLC. And something I want to mention that's been on my mind. So while I was making this video, a video from another guy called Soul Obsession came out. It's called like New Character to DLC Quickly or something like that. Maybe I'll put a screenshot here. And I've just been thinking about that video because, like, I don't know, it kind of gives me doubts about my own content because, like, his video is like half an hour long, so it's literally a third the length of mine. And I don't know, it's getting a lot of views and stuff like that. It's a good video. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've seen part of it. I'm not, I don't lose anything by him succeeding or anything like that. It's a solid video as far as I can tell. But I don't know, I just want to say my thoughts about it without like giving like criticism or anything like that, really. The thing about that video is that it's not intended for new players. Like, I think he says in his description or something like that, or in one of the comments, he says like, oh, don't try this if you're new to the game, because it's not going to work out for you. And yeah, like, I think that, because his tactics for killing like Radahn, killing Mohg, stuff like that, or killing Mohg, excuse me, they're all scripted fights where he goes in and he sets up the fight in such a way that he does it in a very specific way. So if you learn this specific script for the moves that you're going to do and the way the boss is going to react to them, then you can pull it off like that consistently every time. But the thing is, it's a real bitch to learn. Like in his Mohg fight, he goes like, yeah, so you have to run up to him, hit him with an R2, hit him with a R1, blah, blah, blah. And like, there's like 18 bits to it. And so it's a good script, don't get me wrong. He kicks Mohg's ass. I was like, damn, son, that's a good fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to talk shit. But when it comes to a player learning how to do it, like, I do want new players to get into the DLC. New people are buying this game and they're they get the DLC and they're like, man, I want to go get my fucking Rolana's twin blades. I want to get my my fucking martial arts so I can kung fu shit, and then like, it's like, oh, well, you got to go through this whole process of killing Radahn and Mohg, and so I feel like I've been in the process of making this video since before that one came out. I don't know how long he worked on that for, but I'm not making this in response to that. I've been working on this independently, regardless of whether or not that came out. But, I just want to point it out because I feel like my video is meant for newer players and stuff like that, or for people who don't want to learn a script and follow the script and shit. It's a way of learning how to actually fight the boss instead of just learning this script to get rid of the boss. You feel me? The scripting is cool, it's really good, but that doesn't fit my personal philosophy of how to teach people to play the game, I guess. I guess we're catering to different markets, but yeah. I just thought I'd ramble about that for a little bit because the video's already long as shit as it is, and I don't give a fuck. That's my video, I'll do what I want. But yeah, so if you want a more concise video, you can totally go check that guy's video out. I'll probably put a link to it down in the description, but yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to say my thoughts, great video, not trying to talk shit. He has another video about cheesing Mohg or something that has like 50,000 views, so, he's got good videos, he's got good shit going on, don't get me wrong. But yeah. Anyway, I'm done ranting. This video is 1 hour and 43 minutes long. Sorry, but hey, I tried to be pretty detailed and comprehensive, so yeah. My name is DIABETOR, and I will catch you later.